What is up, YouTube, and welcome. Star Wars is here, The Last Jedi, and well, I have mixed opinions. So if you're new to the channel, please do drop a like, please do subscribe down below and hit that bell button to get notifications. Never ever miss a video. So the first half of this video will be spoiler free, and then we'll go into kind of like specifics and things like that and kind of a lot more depth. So, Star Wars The Last Jedi. It is, well, it was pegged to be Empire Strikes Back. It looked like Empire Strikes Back. It is the middle part, of course, of a trilogy which is pretty much treading a lot of the path that the original saga had, actually. And we were warned that this movie would be a lot different than we were ever going to expect. And for a lot of it, it really was a lot different than we ever expected. But it's kind of like a lot of it was stuff we've seen before, similar beats, a lot kind of similar scenes pretty much than what we've seen before. It's kind of similar the way in Force Awakens is very similar to A New Hope. We very much have some bits which are similar to Empire Strikes Back, which it's not necessarily a bad thing, not necessarily a good thing. It's really kind of in the middle. If you like the way that the original Force Awakens paid homage to A New Hope, well then you're going to like the way that they do it here. But The Force Awakens was, well, by the numbers, a pretty much standard Star Wars film. However, here, this film adds layers, it adds nuance, it adds kind of questions, which are the good guys, which are the bad guys, and things like that. So what I'm saying is that this adds a lot more depth to the movies, which the original saga was very much a good versus evil kind of story. But really, it was clear cut who was evil, who was good, why they were doing what they're doing, and things like that. However, one of the problems I have with Star Wars is kind of exploring the wider world. In each of the sagas, the complete sagas we've had so far, it's generally a group, kind of one guy or girl in the new saga case, against really an evil empire, and that's it. We only ever really see what's going on from that perspective. That's it. We never see the wider world. And we see some new worlds here. Of course, we see the casino world of Canto Bight. And I'm not going to kind of go into spoilers just there exactly why this was really cool. But the fact that what we got was a brand new world. We saw the rest of the galaxy. And that's why I really like Rogue One. I really enjoyed Rogue One. I know you can literally say it is just a sentence. The film was made and built upon one sentence in A New Hope. But what it did was it expanded and we saw the wars on different fronts. And that is what this film adds. It adds a layer of really, maybe not everyone is behind the Resistance. Maybe they're not with the First Order. They're just surviving, which is really, really important because the Resistance are doing everything they can to save these people who are just war profiteering. They are indifferent. They are out for themselves. And really the closest we got to that in the original saga was simply just, we saw obviously Boba Fett, we saw the guys, all the different kind of bounty hunters. So what I really like about this is we literally just see lots of different angles. We see Poe Dameron come against an unexpected enemy, or not even an enemy, just simply someone who is in his way and doesn't agree to his plans. And it's always been the kind of, let's go on the suicide mission, let's go off and really do this, we're right. And really, it shows that a lot of the heroes in this are wrong, going against what they believe to be 100% correct, and what they need to do is simply go off and blow something up. Well, no. They need to have a bit more thought before what they do next. And that is what's really cool, because it's expanding everything. So it's expanding the world, and it's expanding the spectrum across which these characters are thinking and coming up with ideas and they're experiencing character growth from that. So especially with Poe Dameron by the end of the film. Especially with Finn as well. He just wants to go off and do what he thinks, go off on this bigger sort of main quest. He wants to go off and do the main quest line of the game, but you've got to level up and do the side missions. You've got to, you know, farm your blacksmith skills, if for lack of a better term. And what I really like about this is the fact that they do that, and they show that the main characters, well, they did this huge, massive mission at the end of the first film, like in Force Awakens, and really that was a pressing time matter. They had to destroy Starkiller Base, or really everything would be destroyed. And, well, they have to. That's literally what they have to do. But here, things are a bit different when it's the balance is in the hands of really everyone else. Of everything, I mean, the whole resistance is kind of on the run, and you have an impending threat throughout. So you have a lit candle, and really once that gets to the end of it, it's going to be burnt. And it's really, really cool the way they do that, the way they have that looming threat throughout. I mean, in Empire Strikes Back, so we had that with Hoth, that was destroyed, and then they were on the run. Very, very similar here. Very, very similar. But I do like what they did here, where it was literally just a matter of hours before the Resistance and could face impending death. And it's just really, really cool. We introduced lots of cool new characters. We have the Kelly Tran character, who is with Finn throughout. She is fantastic. We also have Laura Dern, who is, of course, the kind of purple-headed character, which I'm not going to explain who she is because it's a bit of a spoiler. But she is fantastic, and she's one of these characters who are showing the rest of the group that, well, you can do things in different ways. And it's kind of like the opposite of Rogue One, where we had Saw Gerrera, who said, you got to go and kill everyone. You got to do these methods to get things done. It's very, very much like Rogue One. It's more Rogue One than it is Force Awakens. So I guess we had that palate cleanse after Force Awakens to get us ready for a bit more meat on our plate there. So for me, I absolutely enjoyed it. However, there were major things. The writing of Luke Skywalker, for me, really fell completely flat. It really did feel like it was a fanboy who grew up in the 90s, being a fan of Mark Hamill, watching the movies on VHS, watching him as the Joker, watching him as all of his different characters throughout the years have gone by, and they've written him as Mark Hamill. They haven't written him as Luke Skywalker. So his writing, his speech, everything, that becomes a bit of a problem. Now, getting to the script, so that's one of the problems with the script I found. Now, the other part is the comedy. Now, the big criticism of Disney kind of brands, especially Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is that they use just too much comedy. A lot of people do kind of not like that, but then again, these franchises are huge. They are multi-billion-dollar franchises which are hugely popular. So, it seems like Disney are taking from that Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, we've always had the one-liners, like the Nerf herders and things like that. The trash compactor mention calling back to the original saga in The Force Awakens. But we see a lot more slapstick. So Hux, who I absolutely loved reading, of course, the Phasma book, and I hope to see more of her. I'm not going to say anything more. But with Hux, they reduced him to a comic foil. So he's become really a slapstick kind of beat around the bush guy. He's been beaten around so everyone just laughs at him. And that doesn't work. So Grand Moff Tarkin, he was never the guy who... He got kind of attacked by Darth Vader and things like that, but we never saw him at the expense. We never laughed at him, ever. We never laughed at Darth Vader. That's what made these guys so scary. They were not humanized. They were literally a huge, huge threat. So that is what I find to be a problem with the movie. It's just too much comedy. However, on the surface of it, watching it, experience it as a pure Star Wars experience, it's different. But it's different in a good way. That's why I really, really enjoyed it. But that is it for this part. We're going to move on to the spoilers and just get in depth just a tad more. So if you don't want any spoilers, you can stop now. You can save this and come back once you've watched the movie. But why haven't you watched it already? Now let's get into this just a bit more. So the movie, we go in with really just massive, massive mysteries here. Massive mysteries about who is Snoke and who are Rey's parents. Now, the film disappoints majorly on both parts. Now, what I think is a real shame is that we find out that Rey's parents, they're nothing. And they have a kind of connection throughout the movie, and it kind of think, are they twins? But then it turns out that it's Snoke just manipulating Kylo Ren, which I think was a real shame. And part of me kind of thought that, well, the movie with Kylo Ren, who is the kind of descendant of Darth Vader, one of the most kind of scariest Sith Lords of all time. Well, what the problem is that, well, why is that descendant kind of answering to someone else? You'd think that he would kind of grow and become even more menacing. That was a real problem. And he never really feels like a major threat in this movie. He never felt like a major threat in Force Awakens. But the thing is, he's a lot more interesting than Darth Vader because he is wrestling between himself. He's wrestling between the light and the dark. Should he go light? Should he go dark? And we see him actually almost turn, and he doesn't kill Princess Leia, or General Organa now, as we should really call her. But that's the real thing, is that he's wrestling from inside. So we're not getting a huge, scary, hulking character like Darth Vader. We're getting someone who is angry, who is vicious. He's now turning into someone who, after he kills Snoke, well, that's it. He just doesn't care, and he's taken over the First Order. And really, Hux, who thought he had a shot, yeah, no, he's done. And this is morphing more into what we saw with the Empire and things like that. So I think that's really interesting to see, and I'm glad to see Kylo Ren actually stand at the top of the pile with the First Order, where he should actually be. However, the mystery of Snoke is completely wasted. We never learn who he is. We just know he has Force lightning powers, he's really powerful, and he has some really cool guards. And it feels really flat. And the same goes for Rey's parentage, where we learn that they're simply two poor parents, and they sell her for booze, which is just why? Because then we move on to another real problem I had with this movie, is the fact that the saga isn't about Rey. Well, it is, but it shouldn't be really about someone who is simply just not a Skywalker. It should be about something else. And I think that maybe if they made it all about someone else, maybe it'd be a bit more interesting, because we could learn, and if she was actually kind of a relation of the Skywalkers, that would add a bit more kind of mystique and intrigue. And now I simply just don't really care, because Rey I don't find interesting. I don't think Daisy Ridley's a particularly good actress. I think that the girl who was in Rogue One, she was a much better actress. And really, we have the big reveal, but then it makes the whole point of her training and the reveal of the island on Acto, that really does feel like a huge kind of letdown and pointless task, where she's in the mirror and we see some really cool effects, but really that was a real shame that we never got to see much of her past or things like that. Now we don't need to, because we know who she is, and she's simply learning the Force. And why is she as powerful as Kylo Ren? Because, well, I guess because she is, which really does the character a real disservice, because she has no kind of history or kind of investment. We're invested in Kylo Ren because, well, he's a Skywalker, isn't he? Technically, he's Solo, but he is of that Skywalker lineage. So that's my real issue with that. And we never really learned what Snoke is or was. And Luke Skywalker here, we never really learned much about the Knights of Ren, and all the mysteries really that Force Awakens has set up. Well, Last Jedi goes, yeah, that, with no forethought, is literally just really a real shame, to be honest, with this. That we never learn more or have really more kind of expanded universe within these reveals. And Luke Skywalker, the whole training of Rey just feels pointless, because, well, we never see him train her. She literally sits on a rock and then becomes powerful and then looks into a mirror. That is just the whole training part. is pointless. We see the X-Wing, but they never call back to that because I thought they would show her getting that out of the water. But it's just a shame, and it just never really feels like they were going to go anywhere with a lot of these storylines that they set up in Force Awakens. And the training, well, we never really learned much. And we see a tree, which we're supposed to really know more about. I guess that's more in the expanded universe. And we see Yoda, which was some really, really cool fan service. And we see the history of the Jedi Order. But now Rey has no teacher. She has to sort of teach herself. And she's kept those books, which I'm confused about. How did she get those books when Yoda somehow burnt that down from his Force Ghost form? Which, who knows? It's just really, really, really confusing. But I expect her to actually open her, or try and start a new Jedi Order, because at the end we see that kid who had the kind of Force powers, which, if you got the Force powers, dude, why are you Force using your broom when you could just be Force moving all of the stuff that you're sweeping up? But the Jedi Order is opening up once more, which I guess she hasn't really learned anything from Luke Skywalker because he set up his own story. But where did the rest of the Knights of Ren go? I just don't get where this really has been going. And what's weird about this movie is that it really does feel like the end of a saga. It feels like the end. I don't know where this could go. We know that the First Order has far from been defeated, but the story, the mysteries that we had, well, there's none there, and there's no kind of urgency to answer any questions over in the next film, the Untitled one. Kind of the last one in this trilogy, which is a shame. And one thing I didn't like was Luke Skywalker when he has that Force apparition and he tricks Kylo Ren. It just, I can't help but think maybe Kylo Ren, if he's that powerful, he would have realised what the hell was actually going on, and, well, it was completely something else. You never know, really. Maybe we're going to get more from that, and I can't really maybe see that Luke Skywalker is actually dead. Maybe he's going to be a Force ghost and then teach classes that way by using the Force and things like that. So, yeah, it just feels like all these mysteries haven't really gone anywhere. I mean, what I would really like to see is more First Order. I want to see more of them. I want to learn how they came to be, because it just feels weird that this is being set up when they've just defeated a whole nother group, which is just kind of strange. But that's me nitpicking too much into this movie. I did like it. It just felt like it was a bit jarring at times. And I felt like Rey's story just really just didn't resonate with me. It didn't fit in, or it just felt completely wasted. And I feel like Kylo Ren is going to be a bit wasted because, well, we're not going to see much of him because now it is Rey's story. Rey is the one who's going to bring everyone down. But then again, this film is more about uniting and bringing up the Resistance and bringing that back, although no one answered the call. When they rang them, they were like, "No, I'm going to let this go to voicemail." So it's just a bit odd. But like I said, I did enjoy the movie. It just, these parts just really did kind of bug me as a fan, and I think that anyone else is just going to enjoy the movie for really what it actually is. But the kind of the big disappointments was Luke Skywalker and Rey, of course. But the Porgs, I absolutely love the Porgs. I thought they were great. They were hilarious. They were kind of like the Ewoks or like the Gungans or whatever. But you know what? The comedy with Hux, everything else, just really did fall flat for me, which was a real bloody shame. But I do think Rey is now going to set up a new Jedi Order with these books that we had, and they're going to have to find a brand new base. But that is it for this video. It was very long. Please drop a like, please subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.